This is Life Bursts. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sarah. Today, a story of someone with a massive heart for the community. Yes, welcome to Life Bursts today with Matt and Sarah. And today we have Thomas, or as I know him as Father Thomas. So listeners and people watching, if I say Father Thomas, I'm still talking about Thomas. Thank you for coming in on today's show.
Thank you, Sarah and Matt.
Yeah, welcome. Take us right back to the beginning of your life, Thomas. Didn't grow up in Australia. Tell us where life started out for you.
Yeah, my life started in southern part of India, a state called Kerala, a land of, spices. Kerala was known as Malabar for centuries. So I grew up with mom and dad and five brothers. So I'm the eldest of the six boys. And so I come from a village area, or we call it country town or country area in Australia. So a small village, we had rubber trees and coconut, mangoes, tapioca, all these different plantations. So that's where I grew up. And so when I finished my year 10, I joined the seminary to become a priest.
What caused you to want to do that from working with the family to seminary?
My uncle is a priest. So he was my parish priest when I was 7 or 8 years old. So his work and ministry really inspired me. And many of his friends became parish priests in my parish later. So, I had this very good relationship with many of the priests. And so that led me to join the seminary and I wanted to help people. So when I was growing up, we come from not a wealthy village at all. And the priest has got a big role and they were supporting a lot of people in the community. So that really inspired me to join the seminary and then 10 years of my studies and then became priest.
10 years of study. Okay. How did you find the study part yourself? Was it different to what you pictured from what your uncle had done?
I think one of the good things about the seminary life, it's a sheltered life because you get, you have to study, but you are looked after by the church people in the seminary. So life is a very comfortable apart from you study. You have to do your bachelor's in philosophy and theology. And then also you get time to go out during the vacation to visit parishes and help other priests and so on. So I enjoyed all that. And during my philosophy life, I used to visit some nursing homes, some, we call it railway colonies where poor people lived, financially poor people lived. So which all inspired me, how when you visit people and how even going to the nursing home, visiting people and talking to them as a young boy. So that helped me in so many ways to see the world in a different eyes.
Right. Talk us through what was a typical day like when you were studying and living there.
In the seminary life, you had to wake up around 5:30 in the morning, and then we have got morning prayer, and then we got Mass or Holy Communion, and then you got study time, and then class begins at 9 o'clock, and then you have lunch break, then again you've got classes. So Monday to Friday, every day it is the same, and then Saturday and Sunday, you got time for study. So it's a very rigorous or scheduled life, all during the seminary life. So which helps you to organize your life. So that, when you become a priest, you get an order for your life.
Right. What is prayers? I thought prayers and mass were like the same thing.
When you are in the seminary, we got morning prayers, and that's different from mass. So morning prayer and then evening prayer. So in the seminary, there is so many different types of prayers that you have to go through.
Okay.
Meditation. Yeah.
So you were looked after for those 10 years while you were studied, and then at the end of that, were you just thrown out into the world, or was there a place assigned for you, or how does it work?
Yeah, so I was ordained in 1997, and then I was appointed as an assistant priest under a senior priest for 6 months. That was a really wonderful experience, and he was a really amazing priest. So we get along very well. And then I was asked to go to North India for 3 years to do ministry in the state of Gujarat, in the diocese of Rajkot. So I was assistant priest in one of the parishes there. So it was a very multi-linguistic parish. People from all over India will go and live there in Gandhidham because it's a huge port city, one of the biggest port in India called Kandla. So because of that, the people from all states go and live there and work. So I worked there 2 years, and then I went to a place called Nalia, which is again near to Pakistan border. We started the school there and a eye hospital, do a lot of cataract operation. And during that time, the earthquake struck in India, in Gujarat, 2001, January 26th, around 8:45 a.m. And, I lost many of my friends in the earthquake. It was a really difficult moment in my life. When you, as a young person, when you lose your friends and people you have worked with at the place you visited as a priest. And then I still remember in one family, the father and the youngest child died. The mother and the oldest boy was in the school, and she was a teacher. So they escaped because they were in another place. But their apartment came down, and the father and the youngest boy died. I still recall when I went to the apartment, and Shirley and the oldest boy called Sayuj was standing there, and she came rushing to me, and she was sitting with other people. And can you just show me my tennis and abhay? And it was really, struck me. You feel completely helpless because I know they are somewhere in the rubble in that apartment. It took 3 days, I think, to retrieve the body and so on. So as a priest, first time I really felt I can't do much apart from just be there with them at that time. So yeah, I still talk to Shirley, and now she lives in Kuwait, married again, and she got, she still recalls some of those memories of tragedy, when she lost in her early 20s or something, lost her husband and their youngest child.
How old were you when this happened?
I was only 29 years old.
Okay, still young.
Yeah. So all through my life, I always think about that because, you went to the town of Gandhidham and you saw so many big buildings all collapsed, and people lost their life. And one of the worst feeling that I went through during that time, we had a carpenter in our parish, and so he used to make the coffin, for the church people, because it's mainly a Hindu and Muslim area, so they have very different ways to burn the bodies and so on. So we had 3 in the church, but we got his body for the 4th one. So when he was buried, we didn't have anything, we had to just bury him. So somebody who was making, coffin for others, when he died, he didn't get one. So, some of those are things that will affect your life. And sometimes you look at the money and the wealth, and it can all disappear.
Yes.
What you give for others is the love and care and compassion.
a significant and life-shaping moment for you. Yeah. Well, when we come back, we'll hear more of Thomas's story. This is Life Burst with Sarah and Matt.
This is Life Burst with Sarah and Matt. Today we're chatting with Father Thomas, who is a priest. No, at this time in your story, you're a priest in the Catholic Church, and you're sharing with us about the big earthquake that happened in India. I have a question that's sticking in my mind, though, because when you were talking about all the training that you had and everything that you did, was there a point when you had to make your decision in year 10 to leave and go where you thought, like, you know, you couldn't get married or like do any of that stuff? Like how did that come about?
Oh, so many joined the seminary, and out of 30, 4 or 5 become priests. So we all get options whether we can leave anytime.
Yeah.
Most of them leave after 3 years. So
okay.
And so I decided to continue on because of I wanted to reach out the best way I can to help people.
Yeah.
And so, as you shared, you certainly had a chance to do that in a huge need with an earthquake and a village destroyed. A significant city. How were you then involved as you regrouped yourself and wanted to respond and help? How were you able to help?
So, first of 4 or 5 days, complete nothingness. You don't know what to do. And then, we had a hospital there. The nuns were running a hospital. So we had to start the hospital outside the hospital building because of the tremors. And then we started going and collecting food from a Gurudwara, which is the Sikh religion. They were cooking food and distributing. So we started collecting the food from their pantry and then going and distributing. Then after some time, we thought we may start doing that. So we started cooking food and going and helping, feeding the people in the streets and so on. And then suddenly we started a relief center from nowhere. It was not planned, but the young people in the parish and others started helping. So within a few weeks, we started one of the biggest relief center in Gandhidham. And then we started going out to the villages and helping and giving food, groceries, and all sorts of things we did. And so one thing that we also realized, the generosity of people from the other big cities started, sending things on the trucks, and, every day we were getting food and other things. And so all the church people and others, they came to our center, they either cooking or they going out to the villages and helping. So you see the other side of the people, they wanted to help. So we started first in Gandhidham, then I went to the village where I was working in Nalia. So we started another relief center with a Jesuit priest, and we visited so many remote villages. I visited villages before that when we were doing the eye camp, going and the nurses will go and check the eyes. But after the earthquake, I went to so many villages and met so many people, and we were able to help, hundreds and thousands of people. And then the Diocese of Rajkot built thousands of houses in different villages after the earthquake. It took some years, but they built so many houses. But my contract was finished, so I left Gujarat and went back to Kerala and became a parish priest during that time. So,
what happened to all the people that lost houses and everything after the earthquake? Where did they go?
a lot of people were living in the same villages. They may make a small shelter and live there, and then it took years before they built their houses. That's a story of everywhere.
Did they just take rubble and build houses? Did they?
Yeah. First,
Wow.
they may just make a tent or something like that. So then you also realize how the people in the villages live very simple life. They don't have big houses, small houses or huts. They can just move on with their life in that way. But the people in the cities, they lost everything, the apartments, and the people lost their life. That is the worst part.
So you now moved closer to your family again, but in a parish setting.
Yeah.
How was that different to what you've done before, apart from the emergency? How did you find settling into that role?
Yeah, it was a very traditional parish of 97 years in that particular parish. So around 3,000 people and around 480 families. So Kerala is a very traditional, state. We got big Christian population. And so when you travel, you can see so many parishes of the Catholic Church or other churches. So I was in a very Catholic dominated area where I worked. And so every day you got mass and then different things in the parish, weddings and funerals, baptisms. And on Sunday we got around more than 450 children at that time for the catechism. So it is a huge parish. So you do all those things. Apart from that, I just started a small project helping students from the poor families. So education fund, a lot of people supported. So that helped so many poor families. They could send their children to nursing or other education. So you do your main duty as a priest in a parish, and then what you do extra, that is what is important in my life.
Okay. And do you think that came from the experience you had in the north?
Maybe my upbringing with my family in so many ways.
Okay.
My mom and my dad, and they showed the example, and also many other priests, they showed the example of helping other people. And so I took a lot from learning things from North India and the earthquake, that affect your life. So you wanted to do the best for others, especially when people are going through tough time. So, and many of the things happen just because people came and told me something. The education fund I started, for example, one evening, a father and a son came to see me very late, around 9 o'clock or something in the evening, and then gave me 100,000 Indian rupees, which is a lot of money, and told me, you can do whatever you want with this money. And so that what I'm going to do with this money. And they said, don't tell this, announce in the church or anything, but you just tell me what is your plan. So I started the education fund. So from that fund, we were able to give 5 students, so a college fee for a nursing student is around 20,000 rupees at that time. So that's a lot of money in India. So you were able to help 5 children. So then other people started coming and helping and supporting.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like life wasn't quiet.
No, it was a very busy parish there. And while I was there in 2003, we celebrated the centenary of the parish. So we did a lot of things during that time.
So did your time there came to an end at a certain point?
Yeah, so Bishop asked me whether I like to go and work in Australia.
Okay.
He asked me in 2002, and I said, I will go only after the centenary celebration and so on. So then I left in 2004 to Australia, came to Melbourne and worked in the Diocese of Sale, in the Catholic Diocese. And so first in Cranbourne, then 3 years in Narre Warren Parish with a priest called Father John Allen. And I'm still in this country because of him. He was a great example and wonderful priest. Father John died almost 8 years ago of pancreatic cancer. But his influence in so many ways allowed me to stay. I was planning to go back after 3 years, but it was Father John insisted you should stay more. And then after 3 years, I became parish priest in Gippsland, Foster Yarram. So I spent another 2 more years there.
Okay. Well, when we come back, Thomas, I'd love to hear what your experience of Australia was for the first time. So we'll hold that thought.
Thank you.
This is Life Burst, chatting to Thomas with Matt and Sarah. You're with us here on Life Bursts as we are chatting to Thomas, or Father Thomas, who after 30 odd years in India, found yourself moving to Australia. And how did you find that? Was there a huge cultural gap? Were you prepared for this?
Yeah, the first time I had a very bad cultural shock. It was really affected because, you've been a parish priest in India and did a lot of things. Then suddenly you had to become an assistant priest. That's one thing. And then also a lot of things are different, how the church functions and so on. So after 6 months, I thought, no, I can't stay in this country. I really wanted to go back. Actually, I want to go back after 1 year. And then I was moved from Cranbourne Parish to Narre Parish. That is when I was with Father John. So he really helped me to understand Australian values and culture. And, we used to go to the footy, cricket, and all sorts of things. And then I started slowly learning, how much he loved his people in Australia. And then I realized you get that initial cultural shock, then you just adapt to this new culture. So that was only at the beginning. Then after that, I, enjoyed living in this country and understanding this culture and so on. Yeah.
Did you like Vegemite?
No, thank you. I like footy.
You like footy, okay.
One of the best thing in Victoria, if you get to know footy, then you can start a conversation if you go to any house.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Vegemite doesn't have that same conversation starter.
No.
So yeah, no,
Works
that's what you off the hook there.
yeah.
What other foods did you not like when you first came to Australia, or foods that you did like? What was the food like?
I never used to eat meat at all. I'm a mainly vegetarian of meat, fish. So when I came to Australia, wherever you go for any function, it's mostly the meat. So it took some time for me to adapt, and then I had to go, and when people invite me for dinner or something, I had to tell them, please don't cook meat for me. So yeah, so then the people came to know about it. So the food is another thing, it's a big shock. In India, we all use a lot of spices and so on. So when you came to Australia, it was, you couldn't feel much taste.
Bland.
Very bland.
Yes.
But now I'm so used to all these, being in here such a long time. Yeah.
But still don't like Vegemite.
No.
Yeah, Vegemite does have has flavour, doesn't it? But probably not what you were looking for.
Yeah.
So you were with Father John in that second parish.
Yeah.
And you adjusted to the culture. You grew to love your people. And then where did things go from there?
So then I was appointed as parish priest in Foster and Yarram.
Right.
So that is the same time I was thinking about, joining the Anglican Church. And I happened to meet a bishop in Clare in South Australia when I visited one of my friend priests. And so he is the one who invited me to come to South Australia. And so in 2010, I came into South Australia. And and then I was appointed at York Peninsula. But as a ministry district priest I was there more than 5 years. Yeah.
I want to know about how you made friends, like your English and things like that. Were you good at speaking English when you first came to Australia?
So 3 years before I came to Australia, I was in Kerala, so I was hardly ever spoke English. But before that, when I was in North India, 2 years, so I used to speak English, because it's a multilinguistic parish. People from all over India was there. So, then when I came to Australia, I had to start learning. So it takes time, when people ask the question, soon after I came to Australia, people will be asking questions, Thomas, who do you work for? I have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So a lot of Australian slang, you find it difficult. I had to say, when I used to speak with a priest, and I could understand. When Australian priests used to talk to themselves, it was difficult for me at the beginning. Then I picked up, especially when they were talking footy and so on, non-stop, We used to catch up on Mondays. And so the main conversation will be about the football.
Yeah, because it was on the weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once I came to know about the footy culture, then it was easy for me to understand and start conversation. So from the early part of my life in Australia, I picked up a team. So I stick with that team.
Who is it?
Who was it? Yes, you better.
Yeah, St Kilda.
Uh-huh.
The story is when I came to Australia, the first day, they arranged a dinner with some other priest, and I went to this house. He was a deacon, Tony Aspinall. He opened the door and put a scarf around my neck and told me, "Welcome to Australia, Thomas. Now you have to become a saint." I had no idea what he meant at that time. And then when I was staying with the bishop, Jeremiah, he was a Geelong supporter. And I showed him the scarf, and then he laughed and said, he's a St Kilda supporter, Thomas. So he used to take me to MCG to watch football. So I thought I'll have a reason to stick with one team.
Uh-huh. Yeah, makes sense. Well, we'll forgive you, we South Australians,
Yes, we
for
will.
knowing your story. Now, when you do move to South Australia, how was that as a step out to a rural country area? Was that different to Victoria or similar?
I was in, Foster Yarram. It was mainly a dairy farming community, Foster and surrounding area. Yarram is not so much, but not a crop country. But when I came to York Peninsula, it is mainly wheat, barley, and canola and lentils. So I wanted to know about that culture, the people. So I used to go and sit with some of my church members when they were seeding or when they were reaping. And we'll talk to them and, also get to know about their life. So that was a big thing. I didn't realize when I just wanted to know about. But the farmers will talk, the priest was with me for a couple of hours and talking about the farming life. So if you are in a small community and if you just become part of their life, then they will accept you. The people used to tell when I was living in Milnerton, if you are not born in Milnerton, they won't consider us your local. But when I left, I realized they treated me like a local. How people, when I used to go to the pub and people start, "Why you are leaving us? Why you don't like us?" and so on. I said, it's nothing to do with that. I just wanted to move on with my ministry. So just when you reach out, not just within the church and also within the wider community, you reach out and people will support you and become part of your life. And one other thing I started soon after I went there was a mission to seafarers, which is there's a port near Jaws, not so far from Edinburgh. So I visited a ship 3 months after I went to York Peninsula, and this particular captain told me, if you start a mission which will help the seafarers. So, there are 1.2 million seafarers around the world, traveling around on a 40,000 cargo ship all around the world. So when they come to York Peninsula, they don't have anywhere to go. So that's when we started the mission at Edinburgh, which helped so many people. People from Philippines or India or Indonesia, Turkey. I met people from, different parts of the world. And we focused on the hospitality and really caring for the people. And so a year after, somebody contacted me and said, you like to nominate for Seafarers Welfare Award in the national level. So we just applied and we went to Sydney when we were shortlisted, we went to Sydney, Darling Harbour for this huge maritime and shipping industry award night. And it was, huge, even with 400 or 500 delegates from all across Australia and around the world. And for the Seafarers Welfare Award, we won the national award.
Oh, wow.
It was a huge thing, at that time.
Huge.
And for the local people, it was this is when we were receiving the award. it was a huge thing for a local community.
Yeah.
How they were recognized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What a great initiative.
Mm.
Well, Thomas, I'm sure there's more things you've got involved in. I know there is in the wider community as well. So as we come back, we will hear more of Thomas' story here on Life Bursts.
Welcome back to Life Bursts with Sarah and Matt. Today we're chatting to Father Thomas, who before, when we were talking, you were a Catholic priest. Now you're an Anglican priest. What's the difference?
There is not a lot of difference apart from the church hierarchy and so on.
Okay.
As a priest, if you want to do something and to reach out to the community, it doesn't matter which hat you have. It's about what you do in the community matters. Yeah.
Okay.
So you'd found yourself on the York Peninsula. You started up this mission to seafarers because you saw the need. What were some of the other things that you were able to be involved in the wider community as well?
In 2015, we had the Samson Flight bushfire in Adelaide Hills. So one of my church member, she was actually on holidays in Canada, sent me an email saying that their daughter's friend's house burned down in the Adelaide Hills. So can you help them? So I thought I'd better go and see the family. So with some church people, I traveled to Adelaide Hills, and their house was in the Checker Hill Road, and the house was burned down. And also, the guy, Brad, had also very terminal cancer. So I felt really sad. He had cancer and his house burned down. And so then I went to the BlazeAid camp, and I thought I wanted to go and help that family building fences along with the BlazeAid volunteers. So that's what I started doing. On Sunday after the church service, I used to travel to Lenswood at the BlazeAid camp and worked on Mondays and Tuesdays most of the week whenever I could. And that led a lot of people from our church went to work at the BlazeAid camp. And we used to travel and also do the the cooking.
Right.
The church people hired the bus, or at that time we had the Mission to Seafarers bus, and we used to travel there and cook the meal. And I still remember one day when we did the cooking, the young fellow, a BlazeAid volunteer, he was his 21st birthday. So many other volunteers came. So we happened to be there doing cooking for 60 or 70 people. So we traveled almost 3 hours, from Millington to come all the way to Lenswood. And when we were leaving, all these people, BlazeAid volunteers, stood up and they clapped the hand for us for coming all the way from, York Peninsula and cooking for them. And so I met so many amazing people at the BlazeAid camp who traveled from, different parts of Australia, came and stayed in the caravan and reached out to the people who lost their houses, their properties.
Got a photo of one of the teams of one of the fires over the years?
Yeah, this is actually, the recent bushfire here, Cuddly Creek bushfire. That was the first day. I didn't go on that particular day, but I went and worked at the BlazeAid camp too. But I was there with the other BlazeAid volunteers who were getting ready to go to the place.
For people who don't know what BlazeAid is, Thomas, what is BlazeAid?
BlazeAid was started in 2009 after the, Victorian bushfire, the Black Saturday bushfire. So Kevin and Rhonda Butler, they lost their property, and they put a small ad on the local newspaper asking some volunteers to, build their fences. And so Kevin told me around 30 people turned up. And so they thought they will go and help their neighbors. And so that's how it started in 2009. And now, after every bushfire or natural disaster, floods, BlazeAid volunteers go and help people build fences and so on. It's actually one of the best organizations I ever worked in my life, because people who come to the BlazeAid camp, they just want to help people. They're all volunteers. There is nobody paid in the BlazeAid. Their only expense is actually, they have to, buy instruments, to build fences, those kind of things. Other than that, everything that the BlazeAid get, is used to help building fences.
So the Samson fire that you mentioned wasn't the first time you've had involvement with BlazeAid.
No, that's the first time.
So it was the first time, but it's not the only time.
No,
Right.
and after that, after the Pioneer fire, I did used to go and building fences, and then after the Curly Creek fire, I contacted immediately Kevin and Rhonda, because I had this connection with the founder, because I met them a couple of times before that, and I was on the Maca Sunday morning when he came to Roseworthy camp for the final BlazeAid get together. So I tried to promote BlazeAid wherever I went, as a BlazeAid volunteer and telling stories. So soon after the Curly Creek bushfire, contacted Dan Cregan, Rebecca Sharkey, and also Wendy, who was the BlazeAid coordinator in South Australia at that time. So we started the BlazeAid camp not long after, the fire went through at Lobathol Football Oval. And so I still keep in touch with some of the BlazeAid volunteers. And one of my friend from Western Australia, I met him at Samson Flat Fire. He came with me to Nepal and India and so on. He died last year of pancreatic cancer too. So Terry was one of my best friends, because of that connection with the BlazeAid. So I met so many amazing people through. Even now, sometime when I go through on Bark, somebody will come and you say hello to me because of my connection with the BlazeAid.
I remember you promoting at a local Christmas carols event, promoting BlazeAid. The collection went to BlazeAid, and it was not long after that fire swept through, just very close to that region in the Adelaide Hills.
Yeah.
So a really important part of the Australian response.
Yes, that's right. And fences are so important as well. To farming communities, keep your stock in and keep everything else in after the fire's gone through.
First, when I went to work at the BlazeAid camp, I thought I'm only building fences, but you are actually doing much more than that. Because when you are working with a family, often you have morning tea or lunch with the families who lost the houses or lost the property. So there was a beautiful article written in Victoria, one of the journal. The heading was building fences and mending lives. And that is exactly what I felt, because you meet with the people and listen to the stories. And so people who lost the houses or property, they realize there is somebody who really cares for them.
Yeah.
And they wanted to spend time with them and build their fences and listen to their stories. So it's not just building fences, it's far more than that when you reach out to the families. And when I used to go for the fencing, with other group people, they will go first and visit the family, and they will say, now today we no swearing because we got a minister with us. And then when we were working if I swear or sometime, when you were boy came and hit you and so on, and then they will go to the BlazeAid camp and said, we had Thomas swearing today.
Yeah, good.
You're a real person too.
Yeah.
How did you find, so obviously you've been involved in the more recent Cuddly Creek fire response with BlazeAid and in other ways. Was that response affected by COVID in a major way? Because that came soon after.
Yeah, so they had to close the camp early. And then they came back again, and then they built the fences. But soon after the fire, I also met some people who lost their houses, and I still keep in touch with some families and try to support the best way I can. And our church hall was more like a mini supermarket. Matthew came and so, and I still remember a family who lost the house. Came a mother and two kids with the grandparents, and we had all the toys in the church, and then I took the children to the church, and these children jumped up and down and said, we found the toy, and the mother told me they found exactly the same toy they lost in the fire in their house. So those kind of small stories, and then the child came and asked me, "Oh, can I have this toy? This is my toy I lost." And I said, "Of course you can have the toy." So you don't know sometimes what really happens, some people's life. And I happened, when I went for a walk one day at Laratunga, and this family happened to see me. They called me, and the children came and talked to me and said, "Oh, we still got your toys." Those kind of wonderful stories.
Yeah.
That's so lovely. So many wonderful stories we're hearing today here on Life Burst with Matt and Sarah chatting to Thomas. We'll be back straight after this. Welcome back to Life Burst with Matt and Sarah. We're chatting with Thomas today. Thomas, you've brought some pictures in for those who are watching this on community television or YouTube or Facebook. You have brought some pictures to show us about an orphanage. Share us.
So in 2015, you remember there was a massive earthquake, April 25th, in Nepal, in Kathmandu and other parts. So because I experienced earthquake in 2001, whenever there is a natural disaster, it affects you, especially earthquake. I happened to see a small ad in the Yorktown post office. They are doing some fundraising for an orphanage, Helpless Colony Orphanage in Kathmandu. So I went for the fundraising event, and then I met a journalist who I knew very well, and so I went back to her after the fundraising, and I asked her, "What's your plan?" And they said, she said, "We got some money from the fundraising. We sent it to the orphanage. That's it." So I said, "Can we work together?" And so in October 2015, I went to Nepal and saw this orphanage. One thing I told Jenny and also other committee members when I formed the committee, I wanted to go and see the orphanage and how genuine they are. And so I traveled with my friends from Victoria, a couple who spent time in Nepal, and then we found they are very genuine. So, and then when I was planning to go to Nepal, one of the church lady from Milnerton, John Coral, she said, if you find a block of land, I will support you, and also the committee. So that is how it all came about. We went to Nepal and they found a block of land, and then I went back again in 2016 May with John and a couple of others, Kay Barlow and Regina Bishop, and John laid the foundation stone in 2016. And so that's the same time I came to Mount Barker. I came to Mount Barker in 2016 June.
From the York Peninsula.
Yeah, so from York Peninsula, I went to Nepal and laid the foundation stone with John, and I blessed the foundation stone. And then I came to Mount Barker. So, Nanu started the orphanage, Nanu Rai started the orphanage, and she was looking after around 22 children at that time. So she never had any land or orphanage. So she was renting a place, and when she didn't have money there, she has to move out. And so now they got a secure house, and they got a place to live. And so between 2016 and 17, we finished the project. And in 2017, I took a big group of 28 people from here, and some from York Peninsula, most of them from Mount Barker, and some of my BlazeAid friends. So we all went and officially opened the orphanage.
Now talk us through a few photos that you've got here for those who are online and for those who are listening as well. So that you've got a group.
So this is a big group. We went for the official opening, and you can see the children and the all sitting, and you can see John in the middle with the red dress. She's the one who sponsored, bought the land and paid for the building. And
so it's a significant building that you're able to provide.
Yeah, you will see in the other slides how big it is. There is a ground floor for the boys, and there is also kitchen and dining hall, and the first floor for the girls. And for Nanu, And the top floor, there are 2 rooms. When people go from here or somewhere, they can stay as a guest rooms. So it's a very big, building.
Multiple story, and that's on a hill, on a sloping.
Yeah, it is a part of, it is actually on a flat land, but the mountains are not so far.
I see. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And
It's
how
only around 30 minutes from the Kathmandu airport.
Okay.
It's not so far. It's actually one of the nicest places in Kathmandu.
Okay.
Very wealthy area. And so when we were looking for the land, I thought better to buy really nice area. And plus they got a lot of fresh water because of the nearby mountains. So
Yeah. And how many does it house, the orphanage?
22. But at this moment, after the COVID, some of the children went to the relatives or family. And not all of them are orphans. Some of them are from very poor families. So they haven't gone to the school since last March or something like that. So it is a, sad story how that is affected the whole world.
Mm.
Yeah. So, it just happened. But John Coral gave us the money to buy the land and also to build the orphanage. But we did a lot of fundraising in York Peninsula and also in Mount Barker. And you came to a couple of them at Chenga. So, people wanted to support, for their food and for their education. So we can just build a house, but we also got ongoing expenses. Children all go to the private school, so that's expensive, and then you have to feed them. So that is why we did a lot of fundraising for the orphanage. And you saw around 240 people came to Chenga. It shows how when people listen to a story, they will support. And that is something I really learned in this country, and also in India, of course. If you really tell a great story to the people, and you are doing it for others, and Australian people support you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is very much so. Well, I think what I said in the very beginning of this interview is quite true. Is you are here to help other people, and it's lovely to have you on the show to share your story with the rest of the world here at Life Bursts. And in the final 1 minute of our show today, Father Thomas, there's one piece of advice you could leave with those today. What would that be?
Oh, it's a single word called respect. Something my parents taught me and I have learned in my life, especially when we are going through a very tough time now with the COVID restrictions, and different people has got different opinions about everything, and sometimes we lack the respect to accept people. We become very intolerable these days, regardless of a lot of things. So we must respect, and I said this yesterday in the church. Jesus said, love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. And I said that means we have to respect. People can have different opinions about anything, but there are times people feel that lack of respect and show the compassion. So if we can respect others, then we may be able to accept other people's differences.
Great advice. Thank you for sharing that and for your whole story. You can see the way that you've been shaped through all those years, and continue to be there for others in the community, out of respect and out of love for them. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt and Sarah.
Today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been Life Bursts. You can catch up with us wherever you get your podcast from, also on Facebook and YouTube, and of course, community TV and radio.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Stay tuned next time.
Life Bursts is hosted by Matthew Karat and Sarah Freeman, with production by Reese Jarrett and Kay Hoshro Ozadigan. For more episodes of Life Bursts, go to rawcut.com.au. This is a RawCut production.